Hey, how you doing? This is Gina Versa hosting another episode of the Waffle Press Movie Podcast. Today's a little special because we decided to do a tribute to big influence of mine, Akira Toriyama, who did Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Sandland, many like animes who passed away unfortunately the other week. Very like tragic and sudden. So yeah, I just thought it would be a good like idea, just like kind of like talk about some influence he had on me and some other friends of the podcast. But just kind of introducing this like really cool panel we have for the show. Have a good friend of the podcast. He's been on several episodes. He hosts a podcast called the Gundam History Podcast. Friend of the show, Jeff Fogel. How you doing?
How's it going, Gene? How's everybody doing? How you doing, Steve?
Chilling.
Yeah, cool. And big big fan of this guest. Love all his art and his podcasts. You could see him on the ProZD gaming channel. You're on the One Piece podcast. Welcome to the Waffle Press podcast, Steve Yurko. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling zen right now.
Yeah.
Or not zenny as in the
Uh-huh.
currency of the
Yeah.
Dragon Ball universe, but
Hmm.
doing all right. Doing all right despite
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. Really glad to have you on because yeah, it was I think we're on yeah, I've been on Twitter, kind of back and forth.
Hmm.
Yeah, always fun interacting with you. I think it's called X now. I don't know.
No one's gonna call it that.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
not calling it that.
No. It's we'll just keep calling it Twitter.
We're
But
never gonna call it X ever.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, someone should I don't know, Elon will eventually give it up, maybe. Who knows?
There's another joke in there about them trying to pivot to video, and I'm just like, this isn't the right time.
Oh, that fresh concept of pivoting to video. Jeez.
Yeah, but the
I
name of what they would go to,
What was it?
X video. I'm like,
Oh no.
no, no,
He's he's not thinking this through.
no. Just all kinds of bad.
gotta bring back
No thoughts,
tout.
just vibe company over there.
Hmm. But yeah.
That's
um,
that's always, it's always the sign to bring it in, it's like wrap it up is when the platform says we're pivoting to video.
mhm.
How many times have I freaking heard that? Um,
Yeah. It's like
They
the
always go back. Look at
mhm,
mm,
Instagram.
jump the shark sort of, thing. Yeah. Yeah, we should just like get off all apps. I don't know. And just judge grass
yeah, I
outside.
mean, I got one foot out the door already.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just kind of like going right into it. Let's talk a little bit about the like kind of influence Akira had on, some of us kind of like growing up because yeah, we're all big Dragon Ball fans. And I'll kind of like whoever I'll let Steve, if you want to go first. Do you remember your like first memory of seeing Dragon Ball for the first time?
I'm definitely of the Toonami generation of like the original run. It must have been, I think like 98 was when I first caught it. And I think I was still like I was big on Pokemon at the time. Like I
Okay.
still hadn't like really taken the plunge into other anime. Like I've heard about Dragon Ball. I think a friend even like recommends like, "Oh, you should watch this."
Yeah.
And I think I just remember catching it on Toonami one day, and I think I could distinctly remember at this point it was Namek because I think the other
Hmm.
all the members of the Dragon team that died in the Saiyan arc were training on King Kai's planet,
Yeah.
and I distinctly remember Yamcha training, and I couldn't tell the difference at the beginning between Yamcha and Goku. I was getting
Hmm.
confused, and that's my earliest memory. But I think I can't even remember when I just like jumped in and started watching. I
Yeah.
just started watching, and then it just got hooked like everybody else did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy because it's like, when they did the dub and I believe it was in Funimation, it was the Ocean dub.
Oh, Ocean Group, yeah,
Yeah, Ocean
yeah.
Group. Yeah. and it's like they just kind of start, and it's like it's just Dragon Ball Z. There's like no mention of like Dragon Ball,
Well,
and
they
Mhm.
they attempted to put out a Dragon Ball dub in '95.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. This is, Funimation licensed it, and they had Ocean Group produce a dub of the first 13 episodes, but it didn't take.
Oh,
And those are like, if yeah, there's I forget what the production company off the top of my head was that put out those on VHS, but
oh, was it Harmony
yeah,
Gold?
not Harmony Gold.
Okay.
Harmony Gold is known for producing their own dub of Dragon Ball back in
Oh,
the
80s.
80s that also didn't take.
They kept
um,
trying.
there is a crazy extensive history of the English dubs of Dragon Ball. But yeah, Funimation tried with Dragon Ball and it didn't take. And I'm not surprised. Not that the early saga of Dragon Ball is bad. It's just I
Yeah.
don't think it's what the Western audience wanted out of anime.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of trend still kind of I think continues to this day. But they gave it one more shot and they just jumped right to DBZ,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah. You know,
unfortunately early Dragon Ball be damned, it worked.
yeah, they were like, we need to give the kids the good shit, just the most violentous, part of this anime. Yeah.
I mean, early Dragon Ball is fantastic,
Hmm.
but it's the more it's funny. I hear it more from like fellow artists. Artists love the Dragon Ball stuff. I think maybe there's a consensus. I hear this that your average Dragon Ball fan hasn't even seen the original series.
Yeah.
They only know Z, and these are probably the people that are driving around with like Ultra Instinct Goku on like
Uh,
the hood of their car or something.
uh,
When I think if I were to see someone with like a like a Piccolo Daimao like
yeah.
symbol, I think I'd pop more for that way more than I would
Hmm.
just super blue Vegeta, Pepsi blue,
Yeah.
whatever the hell he turns into towards the end of Super.
Yes,
Ultra
man.
Ego? Is it Ultra Ego?
No, no, that's purple and no eyebrows.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, hopefully like people need to go back and watch Dragon Ball because it's like, yeah, it's like pretty good, and then some good like
Mhm.
storylines as it like gets to the
Yeah,
end, like with King Piccolo and everything.
I
Yeah.
think even if you don't watch it, just reading it, it's because we're talking about Toriyama. Toriyama had,
Mhm.
the manga is truly his thing. The anime is
Yeah.
not his vision.
Yeah.
And you really get to see
Hmm.
the master at work here with just his creativity and his page layouts and his easy to read action.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all over the entire manga.
Hmm.
But in that Dragon Ball stuff, there's just some really fantastic artwork there.
Yeah. No, it really is. Yeah, I would agree. Jeff, do you remember your first Dragon Ball memory?
So I actually remember watching like the first episodes on the Toonami block after school because I was living in Florida at the time, and like I'd come home, I would do my homework, and then I'd turn it on and watch it. And I remember like, oh yeah, Gohan got abducted by my brother, blah blah blah. This so like I
Yeah.
watched from the beginning,
Hmm.
and then like the first, I don't know, I forgot how long the Raditz fight was. It might have been maybe 4 or 5 episodes or
Yeah, it's
whatever.
short.
It's pretty short, but you're like, wait, the main character dies right away? And then you get the whole Snake Way stuff, and you're like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Hmm.
And then they did a good like the first time that I watched a show that had like stakes to it. Like I
Yeah.
watched Pokemon as a kid, and like Pokemon doesn't really have like that great of stakes when you really get down to it. Like nobody will die at the end of like a Pokemon episode or series.
Yeah.
Um, whereas like, oh, he stopped the bad guy, but he gave his life to do so. And you're just like, what do we do? What's going on? Is the show over? And
Hmm.
then you get the whole Snake Way arc and whatever. And so I remember watching. Gosh, I would get really mad when I missed an episode because of like
Yeah.
soccer practice or like mom had activity she wanted to go do with the family. I'd be like, no, mom, Dragon Ball's on. And I do remember learning how to record on a VHS tape some stuff. So I have some bootleg VHSs at my parents' house with like Dragon Ball episodes on them because I just did not want to miss the show.
Yeah.
So I watched pretty much all the way up until 2002 was when I moved from the States to Japan because of my
Mhm.
dad's job. And so I watched in English all the way up until that would have been for us right after Cell Saga, I want to say, or like in the middle of Cell Saga. And then I moved back towards the end of Boo Saga.
Mm.
So like I remember watching almost every single episode. Not all the fillers, but I remember watching
If
so
I could guess
much.
the years, then, so I'm guessing you moved around the end of 2000 and moved back in 2003.
I moved in 2002. It
Okay,
was summer '02 because it was the World Cup year.
all
So
right.
it might have been. Oh, I'm trying to think what part
Because
of Dragon Ball Z.
I hate that I have knowledge like this, but I remember the Boo saga. Well, you know,
It's
like
2002. Yeah.
the Afterlife, the Otherworld
Mhm.
tournament,
Mhm.
Saiyaman, and like Bobbity stuff that aired late in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the follow-up Boo episodes aired in 2000 at the end of 2002.
I
Mhm.
do remember Bobbity. I remember that
Yeah.
part because like, what's this weird little like mushroom looking guy? And like, oh yeah, Goku's dead. Why is he still here? Blah blah this.
Yeah.
And like up until a certain point, that's when like didn't get to finish the whole series. I never watched the Boo saga in English. I watched bits and pieces. That
Yeah.
saga is really long too.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like a 3 or 4 year saga.
yeah. Yeah, I would say I think yeah, I think yeah, Otherworld the Otherworld tournament's like 2001. Yeah, because I remember a certain world-changing event happened around that time. And then I think they might have like paused it
They
because yeah,
banned some episodes of TV shows from cartoons being played because
yeah,
of it too.
that
Yeah,
that's how I remember the Otherworld saga where it's like, oh, this is great. And then a certain thing happened in 2001. But
Good thing you
yeah.
weren't watching Mobile Suit Gundam at the time.
Oh, I
I
mean
think
like
I was too.
this
So
guy
Yeah.
oh man.
the MS Eighth Assault Team or something like MS Eighth Team, something like that. I want
Yeah.
to say
But
so.
but yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. I think like the dub or excuse me, the airing of it. 'Cause some of it gets like out of order, and then I'm not sure if you guys remember. Was it like Ocean Dub airs, and then it like starts, Ocean Dub ends, and then they start again with the new dub. I forgot what it was.
Because
Because
it was a I forgot it was a rights issue or a budget issue. They went with Ocean.
well, it's yeah, you know, I might be wrong here, but just Funimation produced those Ocean Dub episodes, and it aired in like I think they were producing these in '96, so they
Yeah.
air in syndication. We're talking like 6 or 6:30 in the morning on local channels.
Yeah.
For me, it
UPN.
was WB11.
Hmm.
I remember Dragon Ball Z was still on WB11 even when it was on Toonami, but who the hell is watching who the hell is watching cartoons that early?
Yeah.
Um, unless you're like, you know, you're a middle school or high school kid waking up
Hmm.
to go to school. That's how I caught a lot of shows, but that's not, you know, it's a death slot.
Yep.
And it just really wasn't. I think they, you know, they got to Goku beating Raccoon, and it was kind of just, well, we don't know if we're going to continue this or not.
Yeah.
And Cartoon Network acquired the rights to air it, and they put it on Toonami. And Toonami was already airing at this point.
Hmm. Moltar
But
was the host.
yeah, Moltar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I still remember the DBZ days with Moltar.
Yeah.
And yeah, they put it on that block, and that's when it took off. That's when it finally put it on the map, and that was getting eyes on it, immediate rating success. And obviously, Cartoon Network is like
Back in the good
more.
old days of
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cartoon Network.
and they probably hadn't produced any more episodes in like maybe a year or so, and that's when Funimation decides, you know, to continue producing episodes. That's when they make the decision to do the dubbing in-house,
Yeah.
and that's when you get the voice changes and all that.
Yeah.
And
It's Sean Chamel as Goku.
Yep.
yeah,
I ran into him in an elevator at MomoCon in 2018.
Oh, that's
Yep.
cool.
I was like, oh, it's Goku.
everything
well,
okay?
Everything's okay. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa.
proper elevator etiquette. You know,
Yeah,
just
it was a weird moment where I was
Yeah.
shell shocked, but I was like, I'm not gonna blow a spot up. But he is at a con, so I could ask for a photo, but I think I had to run in my room get a battery for a camera to go do something, so I didn't
Yeah.
have time.
I did a faux pas one time. I got in an elevator. I was at a con and Jim Cummings was on it, and I was just
Oh
like,
no.
I was just like, oh, you're Jim Cummings. I didn't know. I didn't ask him for a photo or anything. But then, like,
Yeah.
of course, when people realized it was, then they were bothering him for a photo, and he
Oh
seemed like a nice enough guy. But I kind
yeah.
of felt like, oh, I was the one that was like, I'm like, oh yeah, oh hey, you're Jim Cummings.
It's like, I just want to go up this elevator, sir.
Mhm. He seemed pleasant enough. He
Yeah.
didn't mind posing.
He was
for
probably
photos.
like, "Oh, thank God, not another person asking for my information or getting a photo."
Yeah.
And then King Dork gets on the elevator, and I freaking know everybody. So
Yeah. I was gonna say last year at WonderCon I ran into the voice actor for Gohan. And
Oh,
he was
nice.
yeah, he was chill. I was like, can you like sign this? Because I bought like one of the magnas, and he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, he writes like his autograph, and he's like, make Gohan great again. And I'm like, that's a good memory to have. And
Now, to be fair,
yeah, yeah, I was like, that's an interesting way to sign it, but
I think there's the people that's people got their wish, I guess, with Dragon Ball Superhero.
yeah,
I was one of those people
Ultra
who would have
Instinct.
got
Yeah,
their wish. So yeah, that was
yeah, well,
nice.
I don't know, but now like over the years, I kind of like I appreciate the Gohan character way more. I mean, I was one of those people. I was like, oh, Gohan, he stopped training and he's nerdy.
mhm.
He's
He's a better dad than Goku.
Gohan's just a normal person,
Oh
you know.
yeah, yeah,
He just so happens to be able to fight if he
Mhm.
needs to.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Any moments that like stick out for you, just kind of like watching it like originally, kind of, um, like that like stick out of your mind, that just make this anime like so special. Jeff, do you wanna go first?
Vegeta's sacrifice. Like,
Oh yeah,
I do remember watching that, and that scene is whew. Like, Vegeta's my favorite character in the series just because he has the most character growth and development of all. And he kind of accepts that he's always going to be the number 2 or below guy, but he gets the job done no matter what. And at that moment when he's like, dang, I did all this to get this power, but it's for evil. I
yeah,
got to stop this. And he just blows himself up to not even stop, slow down the inevitable. I'm like, damn, this guy gets it. He fucking gets it. And that moment, like that speech when they somebody put on Twitter like over the summer, I was like, yeah, I forgot this speech is really good.
yeah,
He just like everybody talking to him, and I think Piccolo's like, this isn't gonna absolve you of your sins. And he's like, huh, yeah, I know, or something like that, or whatever. It's like smugs it off. I'm like, that's my guy. That's my short king right there.
yeah. He's great. Do you guys like feel like Toriyama just kind of like just gave all the character development to like Vegeta at some point, as opposed to like just like Goku?
I
I
think
go
like
ahead,
Goku definitely kind of came stagnant. I think like the problem with Goku is like he becomes the strongest. I mean, he's not always the strongest. There's in like with Cell and Boo, there was a stronger opponent, but kind of it didn't really change his character all that much. I think Vegeta's an underdog,
Mhm.
and the underdog story is always more captivating. And you mix in with some spite in there, it's a much more interesting character arc, whether you like the character or not. And he always had more to work for. Well, Goku kind of just always had like that top spot, at least top
Yeah.
spot amongst the protagonists. And I know I'm not gonna get into power level debates and all that, but like
Yeah.
Goku was always the guy. He was always the top guy. And as a kid, I kind of didn't really like Goku all that much. I kind of felt like
Oh.
he was a spotlight hog.
Mhm.
But that's before like really, seeing the rest of like the story. I'm talking about the early Dragon Ball stuff to kind of get a better idea of who he is as a character. But when, I'm introduced to him, he's kind of just the guy who keeps coming in after everyone is like, he works hard and gets their asses kicked. And then
Mhm.
he comes in and just gets all the glory.
He
Yeah.
does the cover sheet of the team project,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any moments that you kind of remember that stick out, Steve? That just really like showcase Toriyama just as like a storyteller?
I'm trying to think of anything specific. Because I think like with Dragon Ball, I think it's for a lot of people like DBZ, I think this was the first time for a lot of people they were experiencing an animated series that was oh, what was it? It's the opposite of episodic.
Mhm. Cinematic.
No.
Yeah.
It's like
Those
continuing
are
story.
sagas.
Saga.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
it's
yeah.
like because most cartoons were just like it's a self-contained story all in one episode, so they're meant to just this could play in syndication anytime, but serialized. Sorry, now I
Serial.
found the
Yeah.
word.
Yes.
I think this is a lot of people, like a lot of young people's first exposure to a serialized animated story, and of course, Dragon Ball's not the first to do that,
Yeah.
but I think it was the first to hit that mainstream. And I think that's what captivated so many people. They're like, oh, this is ongoing. And, and the stakes keep raising. I got to know what happens. It made for amazing must-see TV, appointment television, as the new term I'm hearing, or maybe it's an old term. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember like an exact moment of the show that hooked me. I think I was just like, I remember just being all in.
Mhm.
Um, like just and that was like around the time because I was like fully on board before season 3 started, the rest of the Frieza stuff.
Yeah.
I just remember I remember picking up my first Dragon Ball manga volume. It was because Viz separated Dragon Ball and DBZ, so because they were releasing Dragon Ball at the time, but I think they probably got DBZ out as well. I'm like, we got to have this stuff out
Yeah.
too. And I think it was volume 2 or 3 of DBZ. It's the one with Goku. He's a like a fighter pilot on the cover, and it
Oh
starts
yeah.
with uh like Yamcha's already dead, and Nappa is about to like launch an attack, and that's when he punches off Tenshin Han's arm.
Mhm.
That was like a whole new world too. It was just manga, and like I had read comics from time to time, but not
Yeah.
I didn't have my uh local comic shop that I could walk to all the time. So I didn't always get to go. And I first got exposed to the manga in a store called Media Play, which is
Oh.
basically what a Best Buy was. Who knows? Maybe by the time this comes out, Best Buy's not even a thing anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
and they had like the graphic novels section. That was my first time seeing those, and I thought like that was the only place you could get them. I didn't know about the single, like, well, not the single issues, but like the comic, like comic sized editions they were doing of the manga, where there were about maybe 2 or 3 chapters in there a month. But just picking that up and just seeing that artwork and his layouts and just like a lot of how he like it was the first piece of work I ever saw that used like speed lines. Like I
Oh,
was
okay.
introduced to speed lines and just the motion of characters, like the foreshortening and just the flow of the action. I remember picking that up and just being amazed by those techniques, and also the fact that it read from right to left. That was my first
Yeah.
exposure to that. And I remember I lent my best friend at the time it, and like he was going out to dinner with his folks, and like he came back, he was like, yeah, I was reading it, and then like I realized like halfway through I was reading it backwards. I'm like, yeah, didn't you find it weird that it started with Goku and Vegeta like fighting,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden
Nothing
Nappa's alive
happened.
again? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Blows your mind, I guess, at like 6, 7 years old. Like, oh, this goes left to right. You know. But yeah, it's really cool. The Magna. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it's like, that's such a, it's such a really like good experience just like picking up like, your first like comic or like manga, and especially like for Dragon Ball too, like just watching it. Because I think like just what makes like Dragon Ball like so timeless is just kind of just like the characters, and then like they just like really resonate with you, I feel. Like, just like at least like a kid and you're like your animate in your imagination and everything, because there were other anime at the time. There was like, I mean, obviously Pokemon, but I feel like as you grew up, like you kind of like phased out of Pokemon, which like I'll still like play Pokemon Go, but I'm like I'm not invested in like Ash as I am Goku, or like Vegeta,
It's
or
a
yeah,
difference between episodic and serialized. I think
yeah,
even
Yeah.
like Yeah, Pokemon had that in the early seasons, like or like the first season, I think. But then once you kind of realize it's kind of literally monster of the week,
Yeah,
Yeah.
not every episode mattered, you know.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And I think that's why you see that jump with people like, oh, like I could have it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then too, like, yeah, also too, like, for the anime, like when you're a kid, it like kind of like treats you like an adult, I would say. I don't know if anyone.
it
Yeah.
was kind of it was the first one I'd say for our age range where like we were watching something that felt more adult centric and themed.
Yeah.
Whereas like I would say at that time you'd already had oh Bebop, Outlaw Star, Big O, and a bunch of that come on the late night stuff, but more likely than not we were asleep before then. This was
Yeah.
like the show we watched like, oh, I feel kind of like this is a grown-up show where I'm watching dudes punch each other and blood come on the screen
Yeah.
and limbs get blown off or
Yeah.
a bean becomes this like cabbage person, they blow up on somebody's back and Chaozu doing its thing and a guy with eyes and Bulbin wearing that skimpy dress. I'm like, what is this going on over here, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like it felt more like you're saying it was treated us more like adults. But I was like, oh no, wait, this still is very much a kid show.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
it
like
might
a.
give someone some irrational confidence, like I'm gonna go be as strong as Goku one day, go to the gym all the time. But hey,
Yeah.
good for you, your fitness
Wish
dreams,
that
whoever's
happened to
out
me.
there.
It just inspired me to
Yeah.
watch more Dragon Ball at home.
Instead of like workout. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, it's like a good like medium in between like kid show and like adult show because it's like I feel like something like Evangelion, which they did air on Toonami, was like it was like more like it was like more adult, and then it probably would make you feel depressed or something.
There's a reason they got away with shows like that on the day block. It's because
Mhm.
the higher ups had no idea what was being shown. They just let us do whatever.
Yeah,
So they're like, yeah, sure. If you can play that, we don't care. Like, all right.
yeah,
Well, Ava, yeah, well,
Mhm.
Ava aired one episode that was like during Giant Robot Week.
Hmm.
And that was even like that's the thing. It was, I think Jason DeMarco talked about, fighting to get that on the air, but that would eventually air on the Adult Swim block.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Dragon Ball came out like at least like the Dragon Ball bubble blowing up in the US. It came at an appropriate time for me because
Mhm.
I was heading into like I was a preteen teen years,
Yeah,
and it almost felt like, okay, I still like cartoons, and now it's like like the cartoons are kind of growing up with me. It's like, okay, it's
Yeah.
I don't have to leave this behind. I have to pretend like I don't like this anymore.
yeah,
um so
I think that's why we
yeah,
still
right time for
follow
me.
the media to this day, right? Like, I still play a Dragon Ball based fighting game. I'm going to buy the new one when it comes out. I will watch the rest of Super eventually. I went to the movie a year or two ago in theaters and watched it, and it's been since I was what 6 or 7 when I first watched it, and I'm
Mhm.
still hooked on it. Like it
Yeah,
does feel like it's grown up with us, and it has when you when you like pay attention to the actual message of what's going on and not just the fighting.
I don't think people like counted on like its everlasting influence on people. I remember in 2003 the talk was what's going to be the next Dragon Ball Z
yeah,
because TBZ was wrapping up.
What's the big
And
four? Who's gonna take the
it,
spot?
it's like what's going to be the next big thing. And yeah, for a while I remember it was like, Naruto seemed like it was taking that spot. And I think it certainly did because Naruto is like has had such like a big
Long
cultural
tooth. Yep.
impact on that level of Dragon Ball. Like you go to the gym, you'll see someone wearing a Dragon Ball shirt, but then you see someone wearing the
The
you know
headband.
no, like the
Or
Itachi crew
oh
with
oh
yeah.
yeah,
clouds.
yeah, and
Uh
mhm.
you'll see someone wearing something with that on there. But like Dragon Ball Z just became the next Dragon Ball Z because Dragon Ball Z didn't go away. There was a point in time when it just seemed like it's done. It's finally like it's a dead franchise. And then it just only just got popular again. And I think it's even more popular now than it ever was in the late
Yeah,
90s, early 2000s,
I had to
so
explain to a friend in a group chat that
Mhm.
this is the equivalent of when Michael Jackson passed away. Like that is how impactful Akira Toriyama is to pop culture. Like it's on the same level of like yeah, their lasting impact is going to be of the same level of Michael Jackson
Well,
for
because
anime nerds.
because I don't think you're gonna have
Mhm.
like a lot of people today, considering like the internet is now just ocean of content. y- you're not gonna have. I feel like you're gonna have not have a lot of people, like two people are not gonna have the same influences like we did growing up. And like bringing up Michael Jackson, it's like Michael Jackson was this worldwide icon. I think because you didn't have an internet, a lot of people were tuning into the same things on television, on radio, and that's why everyone knew who he was, and he became as big as he was. And then with Dragon Ball Z, it's like with the internet was still kind of like in its primordial phase. It was starting to appear in house. It's like in households, and hell, when I was done watching it on TV, all I want to do was go on forums and talk about it with people.
Yeah.
And I think
Somebody's
so.
fan
Like,
art that they posted online or whatever they're
yeah,
drawing.
there's less things to get into, so of course a lot more people are watching TV. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I think Toriyama's gonna be is one of those people that like is just one of these like celebrity deaths that affects so many people around the world.
Hmm.
And I think as time goes on, I wouldn't like I'm willing to bet you're gonna see less and less of these kinds of responses.
Mm.
Not saying that there aren't popular celebrities or influential artists like that, but I think you're going to see less and less connections between two very different people. uh like like I don't know how many people that are like big workout fanatics are they going to be able to connect with uh an artist about something as influential as a cartoon, because now it's like you could watch whatever the hell you want at any time. Appointment television is no longer a thing where you have everyone like around the world, or at least around the country,
Mhm.
all tuning in the same time, same place, witnessing the same like unraveling story at the same time. It's so different now.
I think it was like the president of France tweeted out about Akira Toriyama's death, and I like Mexico had this
Yeah.
whole thing about it too. Like
I saw that. It was like
we're
Mexico aired like a whole marathon. Like it was like the Mexican like the like one of the biggest networks like all day.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, it was big on it was big in Mexico.
China
yeah,
was another
China.
one.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I don't think that there is going to be the lasting impact like this. We're at the point where we have like the last great artists of the world where like these are the superstars, megastars, like their cultural like footprint is so massive that kids will know who these people are. And I think you're right. Like we're not gonna have that pretty soon with just how things are so quickly
Yeah.
in the limelight, out the limelight now. So
Yeah. How do you guys kind of feel like because it's like I mean, Dragon Ball is such a big brand and it's like, it'll like, seeing like Dragon Ball Daimyoa without Toriyama or some of the projects that are coming up, knowing that he's like passed away, it just feels I don't know, yeah, I feel like feels different. Like I hope, I love Dragon Ball. I hope it continues in some form, but yeah, it's just kind of bums you out a little bit.
Of course.
it
Yeah.
does, but I think like he'd rather us enjoy the content in like the stories and his work than be sad about it.
Yeah.
Um, I believe like the best way to honor somebody is to just to appreciate the work that they did and what they have and keep engaging with it. And I feel like we're not going to stop at this point engaging with what he's given us.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Oh, Steve, you were gonna say something right before?
Um, yeah, I think, what really bummed me out was just that I felt like he still had a lot left to give the world with his influence and, his artwork. And I know he's still very involved with the Dragon Ball franchise going forward, but it's not
Yeah.
it's not his own hand making it himself anymore. Uh, but there are things like Superhero and Daima that just still feel very much him, and it is a shame that we're going to see a little bit less and less of that. I don't want to say manufactured, but I definitely there's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more obvious that people are trying to replicate it rather than it coming from the source.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I hope it's not, it's like Star Wars without George Lucas, but George Lucas didn't pass away, sadly. Just sold it. But yeah, no, I agree. It's like, I hope it's like in good hands, because yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of story, and for Super, the storyline was still going like right up until he passed away too. It was like yeah, was it on a hiatus?
Well, the anime, yeah, has ended, but the
Oh,
manga has been
yeah,
ongoing.
excuse me, the
So.
the manga, yeah. But yeah, well,
Also, like,
mhm.
who's what, 60,
68.
68? Like, 68 is not old,
Yeah,
Nope.
like, that's still fairly young, and like I said, he probably had way more to give, and just what we would like. I don't know. I guess that's weird to say, but like, what we could have, like, what else could we have gotten from him? Like, I like Dragon Quest. I like Dragon Quest games, and just
mhm.
like seeing the characters he designs in monster designs, like, what more would he have put in like the next Dragon Quest 12 game and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
It's his influence goes past just Dragon Ball.
Mhm.
Sandland is the big thing that's being pushed right now, and that is like, it just screams Akira Toriyama all over it with the designs and everything, because those are his babies. And so it's I think when playing those is gonna be bittersweet, because it's like, man, like, this guy really gave us his all and his best, and like, there's nothing else we can do but appreciate the work that he gave us.
yeah,
It's real sad. It's tough. It's so tough.
yeah. No, I agree. I guess just kind of going off of that, like appreciating his work. This movie podcast, talk a little bit about yeah, favorite Dragon Ball movies, or one of your like, or your favorite Dragon Ball movie. I know there's a few of those. I was gonna say maybe like the one you enjoyed most as a kid, because I don't know if this might like surprise you guys, but I think, because I know it's like low on the list, when I was a kid, Lord Slug was my favorite. Like, I don't know, something about like all the new metal, or was it they had like System of a Down played?
They
Steve,
had some crazy
Deftones.
artists in these movies.
yeah,
They have some money, I
that was
guess.
this. Oh man, Steve, do you know like why like Funimation or someone just kept choosing like System of, like, I mean, it kind of fits, but like,
Because that was just like that's just the Western influence thinking
uh
like this show is badass and
yeah.
we got to make it sound badass. I
Mhm,
realized I was very much like a stickler. I was a weeb early on because I got because
mhm,
I was introduced to some of the movies through like bootlegs early on, and when Funimation released the first three movies,
mhm,
these were produced after their initial run of the Ocean Dub episodes, and these were a lot more faithful. They were uncut. They used the Japanese score,
mhm.
and I love that Japanese score.
Yeah.
So when I see, well, and I already like had heard Lord Slug sucked, but that didn't stop me from pre-ordering it from Suncoast, and then having my grandma constantly call them asking if it was in stock yet because I
Oh.
saw it on shelves earlier and if like but when I saw like, oh,
Mhm.
it's like featuring music by the Deftones, Disturbed, and a lot of other hot artists,
Yeah.
I was cringing at that, and I was 12, and
Yeah.
but I was like, come on, and I'm like,
Yeah.
use the Kikuchi score.
Yeah.
And it was just that's why there was
Mhm.
all those like Linkin Park AMVs and all that,
Yeah.
because that was because Western fans, they thought of it as mature and badass, and that's what was mature and badass at the time. And Dragon
Yeah.
Ball's a cartoon, and it that's the thing, and it's like it evolved from a gag manga, and I'm very thankful that it kind of came full circle
Mhm.
and is embraced more of that, because No, yeah, that why they did it to appeal to the Western
Yeah.
fans because they thought that's what they wanted. They thought like that was the vision Funimation was creating at the time. But I knew I'm like
Yeah.
I'm like this isn't really what it's like.
Yeah. Well, it created like a whole genre of like YouTube videos, This is born
And
out
it
of that.
did.
Yeah, the MA. Did anyone edit any of those? Did, like go to like Movie Maker, like put it
I've made
together?
it. Oh, I've made AMVs. I've never made a Dragon Ball
Yeah.
one.
To
But
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It was
maybe someday.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it'll come back. Like people, like
No,
retro.
not when like
Oh,
copyright strikes happen like
that's true.
immediately on YouTube.
That is true.
Now you gotta make TikToks. That's where it's at. Fan cams.
Yeah,
That's
there
like
you
it's
go.
like
There it
you gotta
is.
make
The
fan
fan
cams for your favorite
cams.
characters.
Fan cam of like Chaozu or like Tien.
I would love to see that. That's like because there's a story there.
Yeah.
If you told me like Chaozu was your favorite character, I'm intrigued.
Hmm.
'Cause I think there's a lot more thought put into that. Not
Yeah.
saying that you're not allowed to like any of the other main characters. That's fine. But I think if
Hmm.
that's your boy, there's an interesting tale to be told.
Interesting choice. Yeah, because like
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, when you're I'm guessing any of those three original movies, was that your favorite?
Um, I remember the Toonami had a Saturday night block at the time. Maybe they were calling it Midnight Run. Yeah, I
Oh,
think it was Midnight
yeah.
Run before they switched to Midnight Run being a weeknight thing with
Hmm.
DBZ and like Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
And I remember just not being able to fall asleep that night and Dragon Ball Z's on. And it's not an episode I recognize, and then the bumpers are just referring to it as Dead Zone, not
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone, not Dragon Ball Z the movie Dead Zone, just Dead Zone. I'm
It was
like, what is
ominous
this?
advertising too, right?
Yeah.
Like
It was
And I was like, what
well,
is this something completely different? Is
yeah.
this like is this like a separate show or canon? And that's when I found out that was a movie.
Hmm.
Uh and my first DVD I got was Dead Zone.
Oh, cool.
So that got a lot of play.
Hmm.
Uh, and I unfortunately didn't own the other two till much later.
Yeah.
But those like like I like
Three
to
of
call
Might.
those the original DBZ movie trilogy because it's like, oh, the first one's great, second one better, third one kind of a shit show, but still
Yeah.
enjoyable, but not as good as the other two.
Yeah, because it's Dead Zone, Tree of Might, and then World's Strongest, right?
No, it's World's Strongest is the second
The
movie.
second one, okay.
Yeah, and I love the ocean dub versions of those movies.
Hmm.
I think that was the cast I was initially introduced to, and they're just like they're giving it their all in this, and it has the score. It does have like a lot of added sound effects, which I kind of think is sacrilege, but I'll let it slide. And it's hard for me to watch those movies and not just be like, you got to put on the ocean dub version.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. I think World's Strongest is probably the best movie. It might not be my personal favorite. It's definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if it's my top.
Hmm.
Uh, but those, yeah, and like Triamite is okay.
Yeah.
Triamite,
Yeah.
it's an odd one. Like I
it had a
like that
Yeah.
cool
too much.
concept with
That's
like
fine.
having another brother of Goku
Yeah.
show up.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
he's not even related
Like,
to Goku. It's
yeah,
just
like
it's the weird, crazy, no way school where he's just a Saiyan that looks exactly like Goku.
Yeah.
He's meant to be his like,
I thought he
evil
referred to him as brother
doppelganger.
in one scene. No? Oh,
No.
I guess I
Yeah.
might be Bernstein parroting that or
I
whatever.
think I
Yeah.
think Gohan mistakes him for Goku at
He
some point.
does.
Yes.
He does.
Mhm.
Because that's when he gets the fruit. I remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And in terms of like movies past that, because for a while those were just the three movies, and then my friend at the time introduced me to a couple bootleg fan sub tapes, and the first one was BoJack Unbound, which would be
Oh,
eventually known as. And by then, like season 3 had finished airing, and so we knew about Super Saiyans, all that. That was cool.
yeah.
And then just showing me this, where it's like, hey, not only does Goku turn Super Saiyan, but so does Vegeta and Gohan and Trunks, who's Vegeta and Bulma's son, by the way. And movie
You
nine's
haven't
really
met him
great
yet, but
yeah, and
Yeah.
movie 9 is great because it's the full roster, like basically the main cast from like the Android Cell
Mhm.
sagas. So that just introduced me to this whole new world. And I still think that movie is great. I think it gets a lot of flack because people say that the villain's underdeveloped, but I don't like he's not all he is
Yeah.
supposed to be is just an opposing force that Gohan has to topple to prove that the Earth is safe with Gohan and without Goku. It I don't care about Bojack's backstory.
Yeah.
And I've seen Broly's, and Broly's is fucking stupid. Yeah, so
He's like, yeah, Goku was like crying as a kid next to him in the crib, and that created like a vendetta that lasted like 30
it's the
years.
stupidest thing, and
Yeah.
people love it.
Which
That's
is
like-
kind of the same rival with him and Vegeta, if I'm not mistaken. He tried that loudly, like, get this runt off
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah, kind of. I was gonna say, if anyone watches like Venture Brothers, it's like a Venture Brothers origin or something.
Almost, yeah. And
Yeah.
and there's a reason why I use the term crazy no way school.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, there was some really interesting films before like the newer films that came out, like Battle of Gods, the Broly movie. Do any of the new ones like hold up to the original films by any chance? Do you guys feel?
Well, the new ones are canon, which they have
Yeah.
that, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I
which
mean, if I'm
makes the
going,
Dragon Ball Super, the first 26 episode of Dragon Ball Super, very confusing.
yes,
Because they repeat was
Yeah.
it the Frieza
the
movie?
Resurrection
Yeah, up
F
through
and
Resurrection F,
Battle of the
yeah.
Gods are like
Yeah.
they redo it, but I say the Super Broly movie is so fucking good.
Yeah.
they did a good job with Super Broly. I saw it. It was actually the same weekend that I got this
Oh,
guy right here at PAX South
nice.
in 2018. It was like because it was them repackaging and reintroducing Broly to be okay. He's a legendary Super Saiyan, but we have to like bring him in where he fits into the Super story. And they did a good job of introducing him to that setting without shoehorning him. I think it was still basically the same, like he was just super loud or whatever. But you got to see why Broly acts the way he is, why he's just quiet, and why he doesn't speak, and why he's just like has to have a handler because if he doesn't, he just goes, rages. And it humanized him a bit, which then it makes more sense why they don't. Spoiler alert! It was 2018. If you haven't seen it, too bad. Why they don't kill him at the end? They okay, cool. We can harness his power. He's on our side. And then it also he puts Vegeta and Goku through the works, and they have to fuse to even take him on, and just that was also my first time seeing that art style in the show because I hadn't watched Super at that point. I just kind of like been following it through friends and like reading bits and pieces here and there, and watching them have to fuse into Super Saiyan Blue Vegito to fight Broly and still getting worked. And just the way they cut everything back and forth. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend watching that one.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's a lot of fun.
It was actually, I'm gonna be like a nerd right now. It was Gogeta.
Was it Gogeta?
Yeah.
It was. Damn it.
Vegito's Patara earrings.
Patara.
Okay.
You almost got it.
That's
You
right,
almost
that's
got it.
right,
It's
right.
okay.
Wait, but Vegeta was they fused Vegito in one of the recent movies though. No, am I tripping?
He's in Super.
He's in Super.
He's in
Okay.
the Super series.
He's
Yeah.
in Super series. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just completely retcon how Vegito works.
Yeah, they changed how the earrings work. They're like, no, actually, it was always like this. You guys just weren't using it right.
Oh, super.
Like, wait, what? We could have done this the whole time instead?
Yeah,
It's like,
I
not
love
the
that.
whole.
Yeah, that's such a Toriyama thing where he's just like, it's different now. Or he like, do you guys see where it's like when he talks about launch, he just completely forgot about launch for like 10 years or something?
Yeah, I mean he forgets. Yeah, he forgets about a lot of characters. I mean,
yeah.
I was in a Discord and people were talking about like Dragon Ball Super. They really remember this character. Like maybe Toriyama just doesn't care about this character like I'll do. And it turns out he just didn't care about that character. He just
I don't think Dragon Ball. I think Toriyama doesn't really care that much about Dragon Ball the way Dragon Ball fans do.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like we never got closure. It's like he's not giving you that closure, bro. Just move on. Just move on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in terms of like the newer films, yeah, I think the Broly's pretty up there. And then I really enjoyed Superhero.
Yeah,
Uh
superhero like over delivered.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wound up just rewatching it recently, and
Oh really?
yeah, I think my only complaints about it is just it's very exposition heavy
Hmm.
at the beginning, but it's fun. It's fun
Yeah.
because it feels like Toriyama. And the CG, I think a lot of people are dreading the CG, but it looks a lot better than I think anyone was expecting because we saw all the experimental CG in the other three movies, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
usually,
Yeah.
pretty jarring. Um,
Yeah.
And
but I
also,
think,
like I said earlier, justice for Gohan and Piccolo. Cough.
yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
great for like Gohan and Piccolo to have some focus. It's basically it's Bio Broly but better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't even think you didn't need all that shit with Goku and Vegeta in it. It feels really shoehorned in. It kind of
Yeah.
feels like
Yeah.
it feels
Just so you
like
know, they're still here, guys.
if they
Yeah.
didn't put him in there, they would just be constantly hounded by annoying fans about where Goku and Vegeta,
Yeah.
and maybe they were worried like if we don't put Goku and Vegeta on the poster, no one's gonna go see it.
Yeah.
Uh, the Goku Vegeta fight's my least favorite part of that movie.
It's
I will
cool until
say
it's like, why do we have it, right? Like,
Yeah. I was gonna say it also didn't make sense because it's like the whole thing is like, oh, Vegeta finally won a fight. It's like, but he's won the other two fights technically. Like he beat Goku. It took like
they
yeah,
he won
no,
clean
they
this
were
time.
draw. They were
they were a draw.
undecided.
Yeah, they were a draw. Or
He
like
won clean for once.
he won clean. Yeah, because it's like, was it when they're both Super Saiyan 2? He just like I forgot how he
Well,
beats him,
that's
but
when like Goku says like, "Hey, Majin Buu is emerging. We gotta go." It's like, can we put a pause and let's go take care of it? And Vegeta's like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah, it's like, why don't you turn around and take out those sensu beans? And Goku's like, "Okay," and then
mhm. God, it's
it's
like
like
wow.
Gilligan's Island where you just hit someone on the back of the head and
Yeah.
they're knocked out for days. Um, I appreciate the new I
Mhm.
appreciate the new Dragon Ball movies because Battle of Gods basically put the franchise on this path that we are now.
Yeah.
But as like DBZ progresses, the martial arts get less and less mesmerizing to
Mhm.
watch. I was talking about this earlier as a kid. It's like I kind of would, my least favorite parts of when Goku would show up to like clean house.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that kind of carries on in some of the new media, like Battle Gods and Resurrection F both.
Mhm.
When Goku finally comes in to have the big fight, that's when I kind of check out. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
And my problem is the martial arts.
Mhm.
It's more about, and this is even in superhero. I'll say this, like when they're kind of just flying around and just throwing fists and throwing ki blasts. I don't care as much.
Yeah.
But then I'll watch World's Strongest and Goku and Piccolo are fighting and Goku's doing fucking backflips and cartwheels and they're
Mhm.
just matching blow for blows. I will any day of the week I will take that more grounded classic martial arts in my Dragon Ball over something out of the Budokai Tenkaichi games.
Yeah. Like
Sparking Zero coming soon, or whatever it's
yeah.
called.
Yeah. Infinite power
Do people think it looks good? I don't think the graphics look that great, to be
I
honest.
think whoever did game capture did as good as they could with the beta game.
Yeah. This
I just think
guy
those
looks
character models, and I know we're spoiled with Dragon Ball Fighters.
Mhm.
No one's got shit on Arc systems, but I'm just like, come on, like how many generations are we in now? And like, what's wonky?
Anime games don't get good. Animes don't get good video games, and it's okay. We've learned to accept that.
What are some exceptions here? I mean, Fighters is a
I
tremendous
would say
game.
Fighters is a fighting game,
Mm.
not a anime fight.
Not an
Like
anime game.
yeah, it is a traditional
Uh-huh.
fighter side
And
scrolling
Budokai
fighter.
Tenkaichi is not a fighting game. It's like an
I'd
arena
say
fighter.
Budokai Tenkaichi is an arena fighter. It's arena fighter.
I wish
You
I
can
So
say
played
like
that.
games.
like an anime game would be like
Uh-huh.
um Dragon Ball Z sagas.
Oh,
That
Yes,
piece of shit.
unfortunately,
yeah.
Game where
unfortunately,
you could
yes.
go anywhere,
Or
but
the
mostly on the path that you're
the
supposed
My
to go on.
Hero
Yeah.
One's Justice game, like that kind of bullshit. Like that's the stuff that they
Mhm.
give us, you know.
Yeah.
Um, which is why Arc System Fighters, and I'm very glad. But give us Fighters 2 already. It's been too long. and fix the bugs with the rollback because that should be glitching. It'd be
Yeah.
bad. It gets ugly.
I wish I played all these games to like have a say. So I'll just agree to like everything you guys said.
Don't play fighting games. It's a mind virus.
Yeah, well, I bought Tekken. I bought Tekken 6 or Tekken 8 just to
I haven't
like,
played fighters in years. I mean, I
yeah.
love the game, but I'm just not good at it. Like I was
Uh,
doing the training up to a point. It's like, okay, then just do a bunch of these buttons, and I'm like, how
yeah.
are you supposed to do that?
Just like hit all of them all at
It's
once,
not
you
for
know?
me. It's not for
Yeah.
Fighters
me.
made me have to switch to arcade stick because my hand was cramping on controller so bad trying to do like all the stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, fun games. I was just gonna say, just we'll press on time, but just kind of just wrapping up here. Any kind of like last thoughts about like Toriyama just as like an artist, or kind of, I know we've been talking about it, but yeah, any like final thoughts you guys want to say?
He's the goat.
Just
I'm
go.
just throw it out there. He's the goat. He's
Yeah.
like if in the Mount Rushmore of animation and like manga, or I forgot the term for manga artists, he's like on there. He's got a big slab in that Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. All
And
right.
Miyazaki has another slot already, even though he's still alive. So we got two
Yeah.
slots left.
There you go. Yeah, no, I agree. Steve?
Um, uh, what we were talking about earlier with all these different countries around the world, the way
Mhm.
they chose to honor him, I think says a lot about just how influential he was as an artist, as just a person. I think there there's just there's not enough you could say about how much he's influenced just the trajectory of the manga and anime industry. But I'm just thankful for all that he put a lot of himself into his work, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
And um, it's a shame that we won't get to hear from him anymore.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree with that because it's like, there's stuff where it's like when Toriyama became a dad, he introduced like Gohan into the series, or how much of himself like he put into the characters and everything. So yeah,
The fits he actually wore got put into the series.
yeah, he drew it upon himself, and I think that's like a really like great artist, and very insightful, and definitely gonna miss him. So yeah, rest in peace. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good like note to end on. Yeah, 'cause, yeah, no, this was a great show with you guys. I just want to say like thank you for everyone's time, and I really felt like I was like back in like grade school, like talking to like Dragon Ball
We're at
Z, like
lunch.
around lunch or like recess. It was cool like talking to other fellow big like DBZ fans. Yeah,
Will never
but
be replicated, but I guess we could come close.
yeah, exactly, the vibe or the feel. Yeah, this is like a cool hangout
Yeah.
podcast. But yeah, no, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Steve, so much
Thank
as
you
well.
for
Thank you,
having me
Gene.
on.
Yeah. And then last thing we do here, any plugs, promotions, anyone wants to just to promote or anything, or whatever social media people could find you at for the listeners as well. Steve, if you want to go first.
Sure. You can go to steveyurko.com. Most socials, I'm just at Steve Yurko. Listen to a couple of the podcasts I host, the One Piece podcast being one of them, the other one being Four Kids Flashback that I host with Tara Sands,
Mhm.
talking about all about the history of Four Kids Entertainment with the people that work there.
I need to watch
And
that. Listen to that.
It's good.
yeah,
It's good. I listened to it.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally different kind of cultural influence Four Kids had, but it's a fascinating story that needs to be told. And I'm honored to be a part of it. And yeah, I'm also co-host on the Let's Play channel, ProZD Plays Games over on YouTube. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, yeah, I hope listeners be sure to check those out. Jeff, where can anyone find you at, or if you want to promote anything?
On Twitter and Threads, if you're using that, I'm Fogy_Bear. My podcast account is Operation Gundam History. I'm bringing that back. I think it's Gundam_History for Twitter. Basically, we're going through the Universal Century and watching episodes, recapping, talking about themes and stuff of that nature of the show. Hope to bring that back by the summer of this year. Sorry, I'm taking a year off. Just moving is hard. And also, yeah, that's kind of it. Twitch, Flick Square Bear, and you should play Grounded on Xbox Game Pass or now on PlayStation and Switch later this year, whenever it drops in April. So keep me employed, please.
I'll be sure to do that. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Gene9892. You can follow the Waffle Press at the Waffle Press Podcast on Twitter, at the Waffle Press Podcast on Instagram. We're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.